Imagine your daily anxieties and struggles. Now what if you could give them all away? Let's delve into this thought by examining the verse from 1 Peter 5:7, which says, "Cast all your anxiety on him because he cares for you." This verse is not just a comforting sentiment but a call to action. It's an invitation to literally toss our worries and fears onto God. But why should we do that? Because he deeply cares for us. This concept may be hard to grasp. After all, we live in a world that often tells us to be self-reliant, to keep our problems to ourselves and to deal with our anxieties alone. But here's the beautiful truth. We are not alone. God is not just a spectator in our lives, he's an active participant, ready to take on our anxieties because he genuinely cares for us. When we cast our anxieties onto God, we acknowledge our human limitations, we acknowledge that we can't always fix everything, that we can't control every outcome. And that's okay because we're entrusting our worries to someone who can handle them. Someone who sees the bigger picture, who knows the end from the beginning. Casting our anxieties onto God doesn't mean denying their existence, it means acknowledging them and then deliberately choosing to hand them over to God. It's an act of trust, a declaration of faith, and it's a decision that needs to be made daily, sometimes even moment by moment. It's important to note that God doesn't just take our anxieties because he's obliged to. He does it because he cares for us. He's invested in our well-being. He wants to lighten our load, to give us relief from our burdens. His love for us is so enormous that he willingly bears our anxieties, our worries, our fears. So the next time you're feeling overwhelmed by life's worries, remember this verse. Cast all your anxiety on him because he cares for you. Remember, you are not alone in your struggles. God is there to carry your burdens. Scene script. How about replacing your anxiety with peace? An intriguing exchange, isn't it? In the book of Philippians chapter 4 verses 6 and 7 we read, "Do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your requests to God. And the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus." This passage presents a profound concept. It suggests that we can replace our anxiety with prayer and surrender to God. Now let's take a moment to unpack this. Anxiety, as we know, can be crippling. It can leave us feeling helpless, overwhelmed, and stuck. But this passage is saying, don't let anxiety consume you. Instead, in every situation, not just the good ones or the easy ones, but in every situation, turn to prayer. But it's not just about prayer. It's prayer and petition with thanksgiving. It's approaching God with a grateful heart, even in the midst of our troubles and worries. It's recognizing that even in our struggles, there are things to be thankful for. And in this posture of gratitude, we present our requests to God. Now here's where the magic happens. The peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds. When we cast our worries onto God, he doesn't just take them away. He replaces them with his peace. This divine peace is not something that we can fully comprehend. It's a peace that surpasses all understanding. It's a peace that protects our hearts and minds, keeping us anchored in Christ Jesus. So you see, casting our worries onto God is not about ignoring our problems or pretending they don't exist. It's about acknowledging them, presenting them to God, and allowing him to replace our anxiety with his peace. By surrendering to God, you are promised a peace that is beyond human understanding. A peace that guards your heart and mind, a peace that anchors you in Christ even amidst life's storms. What a comforting promise to hold on to. Casting, a simple act with profound implications. Let's delve into Luke 19:35, where it illustrates, they brought it to Jesus, and throwing their cloaks on the colt, they put Jesus on it. This verse may seem unrelated to our discussion about casting anxieties and worries onto God, but it serves as a profound metaphor. Here, the act of the disciples throwing their cloaks on the colt to prepare for Jesus' journey is akin to us casting our worries onto God. The disciples' cloaks can be seen as our anxieties and worries. We carry them around, they weigh us down, and they can sometimes hinder our journey. But just as the disciples removed their cloaks and placed them on the colt, we too are invited to remove our cloaks of anxiety and worry and place them onto God. This is not a passive act, but rather, it's an active and conscious decision. It's a choice to trust that God can bear our burdens better than we can. It's a choice to believe that he cares for us deeply and wants to lighten our load. The act of casting is an ongoing process, not a one-time event. As new anxieties arise, we're called to continually cast them onto God, trusting in his unchanging love and care for us. Casting our worries onto God is an active choice, a choice to trust in God above all circumstances. The fight against anxiety is real, but remember, You are not alone. In the words of the scriptures we've explored, we find a profound blueprint for finding peace and solace amidst life's tumultuous storms. The verse from 1 Peter reminds us to cast all our anxieties onto God because He cares for us. This isn't a mere suggestion, but a clear directive that reminds us of our divine support system, ready and willing to bear our burdens. Then we move to the passage from Philippians, which tells us not to be anxious about anything. Instead, we're encouraged to turn every situation into a moment of prayer and petition, coupled with a heart of gratitude. The promise here is profound. The peace of God, which surpasses all human understanding, will guard our hearts and minds in Christ Jesus. This peace isn't just the absence of problems, it's a comforting, sustaining presence that anchors us even in the midst of life's tempests. Lastly, the verse from Luke provides us with a vivid metaphor for this act of casting our worries onto God. It's not a passive act, but an active and continuous choice to trust in God above our circumstances. The promise of peace and care is a constant reminder that our faith is not in vain. In the midst of life's storms, God invites us to lay all our anxieties on Him, reaffirming His eternal love and care for us. Choose to trust Him and find peace.